Pleased to meet you again for another video on applied linguistics. Today, we are going to talk about the social constructivist perspective to second language acquisition. In this video, we are going to talk about two main theories, the Interactionist theory and the Sociocultural theory. The social constructivist perspective for second language acquisition is based on the idea that language development is not just a matter of cognitive and biological factors as claimed by behaviorism, cognitivism, and innativism. Rather, it is a process that involves cognitive and biological, but most importantly, social and environmental factors. Social constructivism is not to be confused with cognitive constructivism proposed by Piaget. The main difference between cognitive constructivism and social constructivism is that cognitive constructivism deals with the learner as an individual and tries to understand what happens inside the mind of this individual while learning language. Social constructivism, on the other hand, sees the learner as a social person and tries to find out how other people influence the cognitive development of this individual. Piaget's cognitive constructivism is inward-oriented, while social constructivism is directed outward. Social constructivism is built on the same principles of social conditioning or social learning that we have discussed in the behaviorist theory, where we pointed out to the fact that learners tend to learn best from people they admire. In this line of thought, two major theories stand out within social constructivism, the Interactionist theory and the Sociocultural theory. The Interactionist theory attributes language development to the role played by other people in interacting with the learner. Through social interaction with parents, peers, and caregivers, children are exposed to a variety of speech forms which are tailored to meet their cognitive and linguistic abilities. In this regard, we can think about instances of using the motherese with little children, or instances where parents use very simplified language with little children. Thus, parents adjust their language to the level of their children's understanding. The same thing happens with adults who are learning a second language. Teachers and native speakers usually tend to use a simplified form of language with non-native speakers and second language learners. In situations where there is a misunderstanding or a lack of understanding, teachers or native speakers use simplification strategies such as clarifying, paraphrasing, and repeating. Long claims that comprehension is improved and acquisition is facilitated through these interaction adjustments. Generally speaking, the Interactionist theory focuses not on the role of the learner, but rather on the role of the teacher and other interlocutors who modify their speech patterns in order to help learners understand. It is in fact a valorization of the role of others who are providing comprehensible input. However, without the learner's effort, attention, and practice, interaction alone cannot lead to any second language acquisition. The second theory within the social constructivist perspective is the sociocultural theory. This theory is built on the assumption that cultures develop tools to control and manipulate the environment. Humans have developed several tools to manipulate weather, tools to manipulate the land, as well as cars and planes to manipulate distance and time. Language, in this perspective, is just another tool that humans use to manipulate their environment, and they have to learn how to use it appropriately. Like what happens when we want to learn to use a tool, we need someone who can show us how to use that tool properly. Thus, sociocultural theory is about the role of this someone in teaching us how to use language. This someone is called a significant other. According to Vygotsky, significant others help learners develop through developmental stages using two main concepts. The first one is mediation, and the second one is the zone of proximal development. First, let's agree on a basic concept in learning, and more specifically in language learning. There are three types of tasks. There are tasks that we can do alone, tasks that we can do if someone helps us, and there are tasks that we can't do even if other people help us. The concept of the zone of proximal development is built on this distinction. As we have said, There are 3 degrees of tasks. Tasks that learners can do alone, tasks that learners can do only if they are helped by a significant other, be they teachers, parents, or more capable peers. And there are tasks that learners cannot do even if they are helped by significant others. The zone of proximal development is concerned with the second type of tasks, and it refers to the difference between what a learner can do alone and what they can do only with the help from the significant other. The objective is to help learners move from the stage where they need help to the stage where they will no longer need the help of a significant other. A learner, for instance, can't pronounce a word alone, but with the help of her teacher, she pronounces it right. So, next time she will be able to pronounce it without the help of the teacher. The same, for instance, happens with a learner who cannot talk about past events. But when her teacher explains the rules of simple past and provides examples, the learner will move to the next level where they can talk about the past event with no help from the teacher. The problem is that there are things which learners cannot learn even if they are helped by the teacher or by others. For instance, let's consider the following situation. A learner who has just learned simple present cannot learn the past perfect or the past continuous or the future perfect, no matter how much help she gets from the teacher or any significant other, simply because it is beyond her zone of proximal development. It is within her zone of impossible development. However, she can easily learn the simple past, the present perfect, the simple future, or the present continuous, with the help of the teacher first, and afterwards she will be able to use them independently without the help of her teacher. Then these will become part of her zone of current development, and only then the past perfect, the future perfect, and all those which used to be in her zone of impossible development will become within her zone of proximal development, and the learning goes on. In order to help learners move from their zone of current development to the zone of proximal development, teachers use scaffolding. Scaffolding is the process by which significant others, including teachers, parents, and more capable peers, help learners move forward with their learning through the appropriate use of withdrawal techniques as shown in this figure. As can be seen, learners can move from total dependence on the teacher to total independence, where they no longer need the help of the teacher. The role of the teacher decreases as the learner's learning increases. The teacher is withdrawing by providing less assistance to the learner in order to help the learner rely on herself. However, the learner is always allowed to ask for the teacher's help if needed, but she is encouraged to carry the task alone in order to become totally independent. The process in which teachers intervene between the input and the learner is called mediation. Mediation is the process used by significant others, be they teachers, parents, or more capable peers, in order to help a language learner move to the next zone of proximal development. The mediator helps the learner by selecting the learning material and adjusting the input to the current level of the learner's development, so that the learner will move to the next level. Mediation is mainly about selecting, organizing, and adjusting appropriate language input and making sure that this input is comprehensible and challenging, yet not too easy nor too difficult. This is quite reminiscent of Krashen's input hypothesis and the I+1 formula. In this digital era, mediation is no longer something that is restricted to humans. Today, we can also talk about computer-assisted language learning, where computers, mobile phones, and technological devices can play the role of mediation by facilitating the task of learning a second language. On practical ground, the social constructivist theories have provided practical implications for the development of many language teaching methods, such as the communicative language teaching, task-based language teaching, and standards-based language teaching. However, this did not keep it away from receiving some unmistakable criticism. First, it was criticized for not taking into consideration the individual differences among learners, as learners have different degrees of abilities which make their zones of proximal development diverse and incongruent. Second, the social constructivist theories do not account for learners with slow cognitive growth, as they assume that all learners learn in the same way and at the same rate. Third, the Vygotskian theory requires a one-on-one education where one teacher deals only with one learner at a time. Finally, on a practical level, some learners will always depend on the teacher and ask for her help, either because they lack self-confidence or because they are too lazy to work by themselves. This was an overview of the social constructivist perspective to second language acquisition. In the next video, we are going to talk about individual differences and how they affect second language acquisition. See you then!